All right, now I want to get into some of the critical core disciplines of digital marketing. So we've talked about, kind of the overarching strategy, the history, what it means to be a marketer today, but let's get into just the tactics, okay? As a modern digital marketer, what do you need to know how to do? And what we've found is that there really are 8 critical core disciplines that modern marketers today need to understand. The first is just basic digital strategy. All right. How do you architect a funnel? How do you, truly understand what your customer wants? How do you understand how to position, how to handle messaging? Right. How do you know enough about all these things that you know which channels you should go after and maybe which ones you should avoid temporarily? So digital strategy is the first. Content marketing. Right? How do you leverage content to generate more awareness and conversions? Paid traffic. Right? You got to go out there and buy some advertising from time to time. How do you do that on some of these new channels? It's not just about calling up, the Yellow Pages rep anymore. We got to go to Facebook and Google and some of these other channels and buy advertising from them direct. Tactically, you got to know how to do that. Email marketing. A lot of people believe wrongly that email marketing is dead or that it's not as effective as it once was. I can tell you, email marketing is still very much effective. In fact, it's more effective today than it probably was even 10 years ago, especially if you're doing it right. Social media, goes without saying, social has been one of the biggest innovations in media, in entertainment. The fact that we can go to Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and all these other channels and just be entertained by by what we see on our screen is a pretty modern phenomenon. As marketers, we need to know how to leverage that. Search marketing, Google, right? If your customers are looking for you, are they able to find you? If prospects are looking for a particular solution, do you show up when they search? Search marketing is a critical core discipline. Data, analytics. Now that marketing has gone more digital, it is more important than ever that we are able to track what's happening, that we're able to run analyses and to figure out which channels perform best. How are we going to handle attribution of this? Data analytics is a critical core discipline. And then finally, testing and optimization. Today, we have the best ability that we as marketers have ever had to test in real time, to be agile, to try new things. You can imagine what it would have been like as, let's say, a direct mail marketer back in the 1920s, right? So I've got an idea for a direct mail campaign. And what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to write my letter. I'm going to have to fold them all up, put them in envelopes, affix a stamp. I'm going to have to rely, wait a couple days, maybe a couple weeks, depending on where people are in the country for those letters to get sent out. I'm then going to have to wait a little bit longer for people to receive them, to read them, and to fill out whatever form and stuff whatever money is in the envelope and send it back to me. Weeks and weeks and weeks go by, and at the end you find out, did it work or didn't it? Today, we can test hundreds of variables simultaneously. We can test many times a day, really big, massive offers, price points, everything, and we can do it in real time, on the fly. Testing and optimization is one of the 8 critical core disciplines of digital marketing. And this is the reason that we at Digital Marketer have produced flagship certifications in all 8 of these areas. So where you are right now is right here. Digital marketing strategy, because this really is where everything begins. Remember, this is the top of your T. All right, so marketers need to be T-shaped. They need to understand a lot. They need to understand a little bit about everything and a whole lot about, 1 or 2 things. So ultimately, it's going to be up to you about which of these other areas are you going to go deep in, right? But for right now, it's important that you understand a little bit about everything because, again, that's what being a T-shaped marketer is, and that's exactly what we're doing in this particular training. It's also important to keep in mind that when we think about these different tactics, these different skills that modern marketers need to develop, they also do find a home on the customer value journey. So if you recall, we talked about how marketers today need to own the entirety of the customer journey. Well, part of that also means tactically understanding which tactics are deployed at different stages. So obviously when it comes to awareness, paid traffic, customer acquisition, that's a big critical component of generating awareness. Just go out there and buying advertising. Search. Oftentimes people become aware because they found us in Google. And then copywriting. Understanding how to be a great copywriter, how to write direct response copy, that's going to make sure that it does get seen and that it gets noticed. Engagement, content marketing, social. When we think about engagement today, it comes down to content, it comes down to social. Think about the subscribe stage, obviously the strategy that you deploy, what you are going to offer in exchange for the opt-in, what we call a lead magnet. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in a future lesson, but generating more subscribers does factor into your digital strategy. And then of course, email. Great. So we've got a subscriber. Now what? Somebody's given us their contact information and permission to follow up. What are we going to say? Email marketing is a huge piece of that. At the convert stage, again, we get back into copywriting, testing and optimization. And again, of course, your strategy. Now, at the excite stage, this really does come down to just delivering value. So whatever you offered here, it's got to be good. All right, so that's going to be up to you and your product delivering on the promises that are made here. Yeah, it's going to factor into your strategy as well, but assuming they're excited, they will ascend. And that's where strategy comes into play. It's where analytics and data come into play. It's even where some testing and optimization come into play, so they should get here. And then ultimately, if you do a good job at the ascend stage, that should turn folks into advocates, which should turn your customers into promoters. So when we think about the critical core disciplines of digital marketing, I want you to understand that these tactics don't exist in isolation. All right, they don't exist in isolation. And when you think about where should you focus the vertical of your T. Remember, you need to know a little bit about all this stuff. There's no excuse for not knowing a little bit about everything. But when you think about where are you going to focus your efforts, or maybe where are you going to look to hire certain marketers in, or how are you going to grow your team? I want you to think about where are the stages that you could use the most help, because not only is it going to inform strategy, it's also going to inform the tactics. So when we think about tactics, I want you to think about those 8 critical core disciplines. And now that you understand those, we can get back to focusing on the top of your T.